Hello and welcome to today's edition of Sobriety Life, episode 7 with me, Richie Crook. And today I'm filming this in the top bunk inside the van, which I made. And I'm just on the side of the road right now. So it's been a hell of a long 36 hours since I last spoke to you guys. But I just thought I'd check in and let my loved ones know I'm okay. And I'm still trucking through, I'm actually in the Spanish mountains at the moment. So it's been a pretty good journey. There's been several police checks and customs checks and being pulled over left, right and centre. But I'm through France now and into Spain, so that's good. Today's episode, before I start, I've got to say that I'm not a professional. I'm not linked to any governing body, and I am not part of any organisation. So please, whatever you hear here is just my experience of the past sort of 30 odd years, and it's just sort of giving you a bit of an insight into alcohol addiction and alcohol misuse, what they like to call it these days. So anyway, so this episode I was just going to basically share a story. Well, you can say a funny story, but it's just a story of a story of mine to do with me, about an alcohol-induced week, 2 weeks, or quite a heavy-going sort of session, which ended in sort of issues, to say the least. But as a lot of you know, that I like to travel. I've travelled a lot over the years through my work and with family and friends, and this sort of, I just wanted to tell a story which I'm going to throw in there from time to time, because I don't want to scare anybody into saying and sort of preach anybody. What I'm trying to do is actually just give an insight into alcohol and the addiction side of things, and sort of touch on loads of subjects. But also, I have had some really, really, really good times using alcohol. And I've been to, like I say, furthest points of the world, and had some fantastic events, and been to many, many concerts with friends and family. And, I've had great times whilst using alcohol. It's just unfortunate now that I've got to the point where I can't use alcohol responsibly, which I'd say 99% of the people that are watching this video probably can use alcohol responsibly, but unfortunately I can't. So that's how it is at the moment. But I'm going to go to a story where, it's showing just sort of the carnage side of alcohol misuse. So if you want to listen to it, but it just shows you how the madness and the carnage it can bring on. So, but a lot of you would know, well, maybe not a lot of you, some of you would know that I've recently just undergone a back operation. I broke my back a few years ago whilst out in Russia, and I'm going to tell you how I broke it, basically, which is a bit of an eventful, I'd say, week. It all started off back in, like I say, about 2 or 3 years ago. I was asked to go out to Azerbaijan to go and do some work out in Azerbaijan, and it was my sort of contract. I was in charge of sort of repairs and commissioning and setting things up, working for a big company, where I'd work my way up from sort of factory floor to a reasonable middle management level. And so anyway, I was sort of in charge of going overseas and finishing jobs or sorting jobs out that have gone wrong or just needed some assistance. So I went out to Azerbaijan, and I was working out in Azerbaijan for a couple of weeks. The trip was going to last, I think it was going to last about 4 weeks. So anyway, I'm out in Azerbaijan working, and then there was another job going on in the old Russian state, Georgia, which is quite a big country. It's a neighbouring country to Azerbaijan, but it's quite a contrast. It's like very poverty stricken, Georgia compared to Azerbaijan, which is quite oil rich. So Azerbaijan is now sort of, it's trying to get up to the same sort of status as Dubai. So when I first went out there by the Caspian Sea, it was 2006 when I first went out there, and it was proper, you could tell it was like third world sort of country. It was like a mystical place where, like, where you just assume magic carpets. It just had that feel, this beautiful mystical place to it. And anyway, fast forward another 10 years, I'm, well, a bit longer than that, but I'm out in Azerbaijan working on a project, coming to the end of the project, well, that leg of the project, and I get a phone call from the other crew that was working for us, and that they were out in Georgia, and they were basically saying they're struggling to get a job finished, and they didn't have the expertise, and they didn't have the sort of organisation to sort of get it over the line and get it finished. And they had a deadline, I think it was a 7-day deadline. So my bosses say, you need to be in Georgia, the ex-Russian state, within 24 hours. I was like, great. I mean, flights are not as easy to come by back then than they were now. So anyway, cut a long story short, so I quickly get on the internet, and by this time, I'm sort of, as soon as I find out I'm going over there, I've down tools in Azerbaijan, jumping on this old Russian train back up to the capital, because I was out in the desert. First of all, I jump in this Lada car. It's like an old-fashioned Soviet Lada. The Ladas that, the butt of all jokes that used to be in England. Well, anyway, the whole of the country of Azerbaijan is full of these Ladas. So I jump in this Lada, this taxi driver, and I said to him, right, I need to get to the train station. Quick as you can, get me to the train station. I got to get on a train back to Baku. So I said, before you do that, go to the local shop, because I need to get stocked up on supplies. So anyway, this taxi driver didn't speak a word of English. I didn't speak a word of Russian, Turkish, or Azeri, as they call it. So anyway, we get up to a local shop, and there's chickens for sale outside live, hanging up by their legs. Next to this little tiny shop, they got a cow being strung up, and they're butchering the cow live, same as the pigs. And the sheep are they getting butchered live in front of you. And I'm thinking, crikey, what sort of a place have we've gone for supplies for? Anyway, I got my supplies. I think it was about 12 cans of FS Turkish lager. So I get my supplies, I think it's 12 cans of Turkish lager, and I get to this train station, train station, it wasn't much of a train station, it was just sort of a platform with a load of rusting old Russian trains on the platform. So anyway, I get on the train, and I'm the only English person on it. It's just all full of Azeris and Russians, and it was really, 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 sorry about that, that's the light going out, but it was really, really dire, sort of really old-fashioned sort of train. And hang on, let me put the light on. You can tell I filmed these live, can't you, as well? How about that? That's better. The joy of filming something live and not editing it. So, but that's the way I like it. So anyway, so we're on this train, we're on the way up to Baku. I think it's a 9-hour train journey. So I start cracking into the beers, as you do, and cracking into the beers, getting more and more and more, I would say jolly, and I'd say pissed, actually, more and more pissed. Needed to go to the toilet, so I went into the toilet, and I thought to myself, well, where's the toilet then? There was absolutely no toilet in the cubicle. Anyway, I saw this trapdoor on the floor, and it had a handle on it, so I pulled the trapdoor up and realised that people actually just went to the toilet, albeit a number 1 or a number 2, just by lifting up the trapdoor and going to the toilet straight onto the track. So that was my experience with the toilet. Anyway, cut a long story short, I get myself up to Baku, and then I get into the airport and realise that I'd booked business class on I think it's Qatar Airways. So decided to go into business class. Enjoyed the business class, enjoyed the hospitality. Let's just say a few more drinks, and champagne, and wine, and beers, and champagne. By the time I got onto the plane, obviously in business class, so the first thing you get when you go in there is more champagne. I was proper pissed by that time, and I think I was demanding things from the stewardesses, and just what I'm saying is that's the sort of out of character, completely out of my senses, you know, properly sort of in a fragile state where it could all go horribly wrong, which it did. And then anyway, so I'm in contact now with the guys that are in the hotel. Well, they call it a hotel. It's an ex-Russian observation building for the Russian army. And anyway, I get into Georgia. As soon as I stepped off the plane, I could not believe the poverty and just the feel around the place as sort of KGB, really rough and sort of rough and ready. And I mean, I've been to many places in the world and I don't really feel intimidated anywhere I go, but this place I really did sort of, you know, I sort of had to sort of say to myself, you have to have your wits about you here, Rich, because this is a sort of quite a harsh environment. So anyway, taxi, again, a Lada, Soviet Lada, took me to this concrete building. It looked a bit like the BBC Tower, the old one in London, but it was just, there was nothing. There was no sign on it, no restaurant, no nothing to this hotel, and right on the roundabout. And anyway, I was there saying to I was ringing the boys at the time just to make sure I got the right place, because I thought it could have been a prison. But they said, no, this is the right place. I said, right, give me the best room in the hotel, because I can't. It was a complete dive. Anyway, they give me the best room in the hotel. I think that was $13, 13. So I paid the $13. Couldn't believe it. I thought that the guy must be on something at the desk. And anyway, get in the lift, go up to the top floor, and that's obviously where the best suite was. And I walked in the door and looked around, and it was absolutely horrific. I mean, there was cockroaches, there was things growing out of like the cracks in the walls. The toilet, there was no seat on the toilet, that was all broken. I thought, well, it must be a decent view or something like that. So anyway, I walked out onto the so-called balcony, and I'm on the top floor. I think it's about 24 floors high, so it's almost like a skyscraper. I looked out, and there was a balcony, a concrete balcony, with no handrails around the whole balcony. So there was just a sheer drop of about 150 foot down, a sheer drop to the floor, and it just made me think, God knows how many people must have been pushed off these balconies. And I kid you not, I could not shut that door quick enough because of, number one, I was intoxicated, and I was holding on for dear life as soon as I opened the door. And number two, I mean, it was just so dangerous, it was unbelievable. So anyway, I was sort of on the phone to the lads saying, where are you, you know, and obviously shouting it and slurring my words, whatever. I said, I want to go out clubbing, I want to go out to show me the sights of Tbilisi in Georgia. You know, I've heard it's really good. It's, you know what it's like, you just sort of you're not thinking straight. Even though I've got to be on site at a BP oil refinery to try and rescue a job, I was the man everyone's expecting to see, this, you know, Richie Crook's coming over to save the day. And I'm absolutely pissed as a fart, because obviously I don't drink champagne as a rule, but by this time the champagne had kicked in, all the beers had kicked in, and I weren't in really a fit state to be going out. I should have gone straight to bed, but I'd have been scared of not waking up if I went to that bed. It was that sort of it was that rough, and it just sort of oozed with sort of seediness and racketing in that hotel. But anyway, I was pissed, so I didn't really care where I was sleeping or going. All I cared about was going out on the town and seeing this beautiful city in Tbilisi, which it was. Anyway, so I went downstairs. There was all the lads huddled around this like small table, drinking away the vodka, because vodka's massive out there. So there was a big bottle of vodka on the table, and I said, where'd you get that? He said, oh, you buy it off the cleaner, because there's no bar there, but the cleaner actually sold the vodka for $3 a bottle, moonshine or something like that. Anyway, so I thought it would be a great idea to sit there drinking that. I mean, by this time I'm sort of drinking dangerous levels, which could actually make you black out, or do some serious damage to your health. But I was doing this every night, with not to this sort of degree. I'm just telling you the story how I broke my back. But anyway, so we all pile into taxis. By this time the memory's going a little bit, because it was such an eventful night. But we was going, I think there was a few pubs in this area where a lot of the expats go, like the people working over there. There are a lot of Scottish people over there as well. So anyway, we ended up in this club, and that's where the drinking just went to another level. I was doing shot after shot on the bar, getting more and more loud and rowdy. And then we was in a certain part of this club where the dance music was kicking in, and we had all us lads there, all from the southwest, from the same town. You know who you are. Anyway, so we're all in this club. They're all behaving impeccably, very respectable, keeping their heads down, because they know about, there's a lot of Russians there that could do some serious damage to us if we sort of stepped out of line. So yeah, they're all behaving themselves impeccably. All of them, well, one guy in particular just kept telling me to behave, and the bar staff are getting more and more peed off with me, and the bouncers, these big burly Russians, were getting more and more annoyed with me. And then I decided it'd be a good idea to start dancing on the bar. Bear in mind, this is quite a respectable club. I think it's one of the sort of poshest and nicest in Tbilisi. And I'm there dancing on the bar, still in the same clothes I left site with, left Azerbaijan in. And it's only an hour flight, so I got to Tbilisi pretty quick. So in the end, the bouncers all picked me up, I think one on each arm and one on each leg, and sort of launched me through the side doors. Quite rightly so, if you ask me, because I must have been a right pain in the arse. Anyway, they threw me through the doors. All my mates come out, and my work colleagues, just to make sure I was okay. And they basically scraped me off the floor, and I'm sort of swaying from left to right. I think one of them said, "Let's get him a taxi." And anyway, was getting quite close to there's a big cliff overlooking, there's a castle in Tbilisi, and there's like outside the nightclub, there's a bit of a courtyard area, and there's a drop, about 40-foot drop down. Yeah, about 40 foot, maybe a little bit more, maybe a bit higher, down onto the low road. No barriers, there's no barriers, no health and safety in Tbilisi. But anyway, so in this sort of square area, there's a lot of people trying to sell things, like the hustlers trying to sell you. There's pickpockets there trying to rob you, and I was oblivious to all of it. So I thought, I'm trying to talk to people, and what they must have thought, I don't know. Anyway, there was these gypsy ladies, the gypsy ladies that try and sell the flowers or the heather, and they curse you if you don't buy them. Anyway, one of them come up to me and tried selling me, well, there's a group of them actually, tried selling me some heather. Obviously I was an easy target, I was heavily intoxicated, and I think I told her to go away, no, and I think I was really rude about it, the way I said no. And before I had a chance to even set myself, she got both hands out and pushed me with all her might with both hands, like straight back, almost to say back off, but she pushed me, and she knew what she was doing, and she pushed me off the cliff. So when I say off the cliff, that 40 or 50 foot drop down onto the low road, onto a load of concrete slabs, she had pushed me backwards off of the cliff to my potential death. All I can remember is her two hands coming out, pushing me with all her might, and then all I remember then is sort of like being woken up at the bottom of the cliff by two of my friends, in a hysterical sort of way they were, because they thought I was dead. But I'd landed flat on my back, and luckily I was actually so intoxicated that my body was so limp in midair that on impact I didn't actually try and protect myself. So that's probably what saved me. So I had a big gaping cut on the back of my head, and I couldn't really feel any. I couldn't feel my legs. When I asked what happened, and my friend said the lady pushed you off the cliff, I was straight up on my feet, even though he was trying not to move me because an ambulance had been called. I was up on my feet saying, where is she? Let me at her, let me at her. So then I went back up the top looking for her, and all I remember then is waking up the next morning stiff as a board, and I had to be on site at, I think it was 7:30 in the morning. I woke up about 4 o'clock thinking, what the hell happened last night? You know the ones when you have that feeling. Anyway, I quickly, I tried to get my head together. What I'd done was I had another drink. I had a drink in the apartment because I must have brought a couple of bottles back from the airport with me, which I can't remember. So I think it was 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm drinking strong Turkish lager to try and sort my head out, if that's what you want to call it. And all it was doing was making me more and more pissed. And anyway, that gave me enough buzz, enough inside me to sort of almost get my senses, but I was really slurring my words and really sort of, anyone who knew me would know I was proper pissed still. So anyway, I got everyone up into their taxis, and we managed to get to the BP site, which is this great big site, like a little mini town. So and I had all the big chiefs there waiting to see me. So as I walked through the office door, there was a big what's the word, the boardroom table. And as I walked in the boardroom, the MD of the site and the BP rep said, and he was Turkish, so I'm not going to try and do his accent, but he said, oh, here he is, the saviour, the famous Richie Crook. So, and then I was like going more and more red than I obviously were. I was proper alcohol-induced red. And he goes, right, Richie, can you please bullet point and give us a talk on how you're going to save this job, and what ideas you've got and what you're going to implement, and where do you want all of our guys to go and save this job. Our guys are at your disposal. And I tell you what, that was the worst half an hour of my life, trying to muddle my way through and sort of bluff my way through how I'm going to do a job which I didn't know nothing about, because my head was just so fogged up with brain fog and alcohol, and I just felt so much like shit. And I mean, I had to go to the toilet a couple of times and be sick, and I, you know, and even the MD, and like I said, he was Turkish. As I was coming out of the toilet, he came right up to me as close as he could, and he was smelling me to see if he could smell alcohol on me. And anyway, I didn't get thrown out of sight. If I did, I would have lost everything. I'd lost my job, my income for my family, my young family. And yes, I probably got away with it that time, but that just goes to show, and I just wanted to point it out, that these stories can be funny and you could have a good time, but it just goes to show the actual depths and how low the alcohol can actually drag you down, and how addiction can get you down at rock bottom. And I nearly lost my life that night. I really did nearly lose my life. And if it wasn't for being intoxicated or pissed, I would have lost my life, potentially would have, because that was a hell of a high fall. And the guys that are with me, you'll probably be watching this now and say, yeah, you were very lucky to survive. And maybe Lady Luck was looking down on me, but it just goes to show, it takes away all your logical thinking, speaking, actions. And I mean, I've got many more stories, and if you like the story, you know, then please hit like and just send me your feedback. But what the point I was making is it just shows you how deep the addictions can take you. Now, it might not be as extreme as breaking your back in Georgia in an old Russian state, flying business class, and sort of how the story got me there, but that's the reason why I've been in hospital having an operation. You know, these things do come back to bite you when you get older. So, you know, there's a moral to the story. Don't break your back. Don't get pushed off a cliff by a gypsy woman. Maybe buy some heather if anyone ever asks you to buy some heather. And don't dance in a Russian nightclub on the bar, especially if you're being British. I'm going to leave you there. This is obviously, I've had a really long day. I'm going to get back on the road now. Thanks for liking, and thanks to all of you who have subscribed. And remember, if you're struggling out there, contact me on support@sobrietylife.org, or write into to our website, which is sobrietylife.org. We're on Facebook. We've got 1,200 followers on Facebook now, which is absolutely fantastic. Had some really nice messages from Facebook as well. Thank you to that. You know who you are. And yeah, we've Instagram and TikTok, and what's the other one? YouTube. That's the one. Anyway, I'm going to get back on the road, and I will check back in the next couple of days. Thanks very much for listening, and thank you, and watching, sorry. Cheerio, bye bye.